right, he is here. Another one I've been excited about for a while and came out faster than I thought it was going to, based from reveal to release. While we still wait for MPM-7 Ironhide, who was announced like 800 years ago. He's got announced a couple months ago, and suddenly, like, actually just didn't even really get announced. There was just like here's a video of Masterpiece 7 Volkswagen Bumblebee, and we're all like, okay. And then all the official news came out. Anyway, here he is. He is, as you can see, a Volkswagen Beetle with a little faded paint job to look a little old and dingy there along the bottom. Now, as I mentioned in some of my other previous Bumblebee reviews, we had a yellow Beetle just like this one. And I gotta say that is way too pristine and not brown enough for some of the tarnishing that happens to a yellow Beetle. Anyway, you can see he's got his little weapons accessories pack that plugs into the back, and it just tabs on to the, there's a couple little holes here in his cannon that fit over the exhaust pipes here on the back of the vehicle mode. And you see his helmet has already popped off. I actually had to run back into work about 45 minutes ago. I planned to shoot this video an hour ago and then realized that his helmet had fallen off. Thankfully, it was in the studio at work, and I was able to find it because there's a little tab here on the back of the gun that fits up through the slot in his mask. And it kind of stays on, like it did, like it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to pop it off. And I may put like a very thin layer of floor polish here on that tab, because you don't use that tab for anything else in the transfer. Maybe that does tab in his arm. I'll have to check when I do it. But I don't think you use that tab for anything else, so just making it a little thicker shouldn't affect anything. But yeah, so you got his blade and his gun. It stores back here, and doesn't really do a whole lot in vehicle mode, so we're just going to set that off to the side for the time being. I will say that's one area the Studio Series has an advantage over the Masterpiece, is that I do like the way that his gun and his sword and his mask, stored underneath the vehicle mode, even though some of the robot mode storage was a little ridiculous and unwieldy. So again, the paint job, he rolls kind of okay. Like, this is an uneven surface, so he's kind of scraping his foot block back here, and these hinges really, if you look at it, really don't have a whole lot of clearance on on the wheels. So on a rubber mouse pad, his wheels roll, and he rolls pretty freely. On a flat wooden desk, he rolls, but because the wheels, like, they have some grooves on the edges, but the actual middle of them is smooth. One of the wheels sometimes will not roll. It just doesn't get the friction it needs on a super smooth surface, but on something like a mouse pad, it rolls just fine. And then here on this kind of warpy plastic I've got down here, he's scraping a little bit. He does roll, but the clearance is very, very minimal. It's like Masterpiece Hot Rod minimal here, and I have not found a way to improve it. There is a little bit of a gap here on this bumper. You can see these two pieces match up pretty well, and over here there's a bit of a gap, and I cannot for the life of me figure out what is causing that. Everything's tabbed in correctly. The arms are mirrored on either side. I'm not 100% sure why that is happening, but it is. And it's minor. I mean, it's just back here, and he's got transformation lines all over him, so it's not the end of the world. He still looks like a nice little Beetle, and I love his Beetle mode. It's really nice. The windows are blue instead of clear. I'm not entirely sure what the choice behind that was. Maybe that's just because Masterpiece Prowl just came out, and he has these bluish windows, and maybe they just use the same plastic. I don't know. I would have preferred them, like, I don't mind the blue tint. I would have preferred it to be just a little less saturated, like more of a pale blue, if they didn't want to go with straight clear. But it really, overall, doesn't really bother me when in hand. Like, it doesn't come off as blue when you're just playing with it under normal lighting than it does in some of these highlight saturation review/photo situations. Now, also one of the things you'll notice, they clearly assemble, paint all these parts before they're assembled, and they probably have a machining process to do it. I doubt somebody's airbrushing all these by hand, although that could account for some of the variations in the thing. So maybe yours will be better, but as you can see, most of it looks pretty cool. It's a nice kind of slow fade into the darker orange, except right here, because this center panel here is actually part of his arm, and then all of this around it is a separate, his back wing and stuff. So they painted this, and they just kind of hit it right up to the edge, and then they did nothing on this arm panel. Now, personally, you don't see this panel in robot mode. I think they could have gotten away with maybe fading some of the orange up here down into this, But a lot of the, I haven't seen pictures of every single person's Bumblebee, but a lot of them I've seen have this kind of squared off fading right here on both sides versus the slow fade elsewhere on the car. A minor complaint. You can see there he is underneath. I'm going from vehicle to robot mode because for a video review it's way easier. But I'll try to point out some of the problem areas, and I actually intend in a rare break from standard of shooting a robot mode to vehicle transformation instructional video when I have a little bit more time, maybe over the weekend. So yeah, here he is. He does not have his face visible under here like the Studio Series does, and like apparently he does in the movie. But what's cute is his face is actually facing forward here in the trunk, which is we'll see during transformation. But I like the fact that as he drives around, he's actually looking forward out of here, even though can't see through that. Or maybe he can. He's a robot. Who knows? Anyway, so to start his transformation, you want to pop. You can start anywhere. He has a very similar structure where the hood and the roof and this part of the roof all kind of fold up and then press down on the top as the last thing, although much more secure than the Studio Series. Like there's not a lot of trying to smush it together back here while everything else underneath pops apart. He's actually very solid, although that comes at the price of being kind of frustrating getting everything pushed together. So anyway, we'll go ahead and pop the fenders off. It helps to kind of just right here by that little red tail light, pop it out a little bit, and then lift this whole assembly up. I didn't want to pop that window up, but lift this up, and then you can kind of pull the whole bumper loose. Just kind of push these in, push the bumper down. Now the bumper, I want to talk about this before we get any further. This bumper, these hinges fold down for robot mode like this, and a little further than that, but just as an example. However, these pins are very tight, and this piece, you can see just kind of friction clips on. So you're going to, unless you hold it right here at the hinge as you flip these up going to vehicle mode, you're going to pop these off because you can see it's kind of flexible plastic, and there's just this tiny little notch that holds it onto the bumper. So while folding, like when you're going back to robot mode, folding them down, it's fine. The minute you try to pull this up, it starts to unhinge it because this bends easier than this pin moves. So if you hold it right here when you're going up, it helps a little bit. Well, as you can see, not much. But yeah, so if you kind of put your finger there and get under there and lift that up, you can prevent it from popping off. It's probably going to. Like, unless you just get the magical bumper, or you take matters into your own hands and actually glue this in, which I am hesitant to do, it's probably going to pop off on you, just FYI. But you fold those down like that, lift this up, and now you can take these panels here and pop them out. You can kind of push here on this middle panel. And this is why it's an issue, because here's the whole side panel, and you can see that this piece has to fit in the middle there while also kind of matching around this back bumper piece here, and this tabs into back here. This whole piece is a mess. This little tab right here, when you bring the doors forward, you kind of have to, the way they hinge up, you kind of have to put them in like that and then kind of fold it around. And again, it's nice, it locks it in place, but there's also, for whatever reason, and I feel like you could probably shave this off, and the way everything else tabs in so securely back here, it wouldn't be an issue. There's a little tab, you can kind of see it right there on the door, that has to go behind this piece as you wrap it around. So it's immensely frustrating to get that. Well, see, there it did it on this side because the hood is up. If this were down here, you'd have a little, and the transformation show you having tabbed this in first. It's a little frustrating. And you do want to tab this in first because trying to tab this bumper around these bumper pieces at this point is very difficult, and then this piece has to fold up in. So yeah, but that's why I didn't want to do it into vehicle mode, and I will shoot one, but these little tabs here are very frustrating. And like I said, you might very well be able to just shave that tab off because it's tabbing in here, it's tabbing in back here. This window is going to lock in behind this piece, this little tab here on the back of the window. I feel like this whole thing is going to hold together, and it's tabbed in up front. I feel like it's going to hold together pretty well without that tab, but it's there and it's frustrating. So open up his doors out to the side, And you can see they're on a double hinge, and that can help you pose it, actually 1, 2, triple hinge, collapse them in robot mode, but just bring them out and extend those all the way back. So now his panels are sitting way back here. If you went ahead and pulled this up, these are much looser and freer, so you can go ahead and pull these out to the side as well. You come back here, lift this up. Here are his arms. And again, when going to vehicle mode, the instructions kind of try to show you this, but you'll see there's a silver piece right here that goes up to a hinge right here, and the arms need to be pushed. There's a little notch up here. There we go. Right there at the back of the silver, and that black piece has to be all the way folded up in there. So the shoulders are basically sitting right here behind his thighs. Because if you don't fold those in, it'll cause problems when you fold the whole hood down. Go ahead and lift his arms up like this, and we will pop. Actually, before we do that, we'll take this. The doors here are attached to his missile launchers that hide in his chest, and you can rotate those up like that. That'll make some room for the arms to fold out underneath. And then the arms, they also peg together here. The instructions do their best to show this off, but some of them are just not really clear. But there's a tab here and a tab here. So when you fold the arms up in, these two black plastic pieces should tab together inside there. We'll bring those down and around. Come around to the front. Have the doors folded back. And then this silver piece underneath the missile launcher rotates up. And there's a tab up here that the shoulder piece tabs onto. Actually, just inside the shoulder piece tabs onto, and then rotate his arm down. Again, rotate that up, peg it on, and then rotate it at the shoulder so his arm comes down. Go ahead and flip the fists up so they're flat with his forearm armor. And then these pieces fold around the arm to the back, and then this piece right here rotates down like that and snaps into place. So like that, and then rotate that around. And then you can see there's where his head sits in vehicle mode, staring forward, which is kind of cool. Take this piece, fold it out, flip his head up. And again, the instructions here, there's a couple tabs on the bottom of this piece and some slots under here. The instructions make it look like it's supposed to click into place, and it doesn't really. I mean, like, there's no way to get the pressure there, and even then, there's a ridge that flares out over the side here. So it seats in those slots, but it doesn't. If it's a little loose, as long as it's sitting in those slots, you're fine. It just doesn't. The instructions make it look like it should snap into place, and you'll feel no click, and you'll hear no audible click. But as long as it's flat there and folds up into the chest, you're fine. But lift his head up, and then take this chest panel and bring it all the way down. There's a double hinge in there, and then just push it into his stomach like that. You can see he's coming together. Fold his shoulder panels down, but flip them up at this hinge right here at the black plastic. There's a little tab here on this black plastic that has a little bit of a catch on it, and it feels like it should click into these metal die-cast missile launchers, and it kind of does, but it's not really secure. If I try to pull it out to the side and lift it up, it latches okay, but the way they just naturally sit, and there's no way to push these in any tighter. The way it naturally sits, it's a little loose. But normally, you don't have to flip these all the way up to deploy his missile launchers. There is a hinge up here that you can just lift up to deploy those in robot mode. He does have some fake bumpers here for his chest, so flip those up, and then just fold these panels down over those missile launchers. And his upper body's there is mostly done. I'm going to fold the wings out to the side. This panel is on a hinge here and here, so you take the upper part of the roof, lift it up like that, and then fold it over the windscreen like that, and then take this other panel and fold it down underneath. These are already folded down, and then this whole piece, much like you can kind of fold it under here like this, and then it kind of collapses onto his back, very much like the Studio series. Although it's not as difficult to push this all up. You just fold it up and set that down behind his head like that. His legs, go ahead and pop them apart here at the back of the vehicle mode. Now these pieces, fold them down, And this armature that they're on, there's a hinge here that is only for transformation because they end up in the same position in both robot and vehicle mode. But in order to make some clearance, you can see there's a pin hinge right down here. So you want to kind of pull those out to the side on that pin hinge, and that'll let you flip the lower leg down. And once that's done, grab this foot, slide it down and around like that, in which case you can hinge this back out to fold it all the way down. Fold that all the way down, straighten that, fold his toe up, and then push this back up into place here. Oh wait, before we do that, before you fold that in, fold in his wheels. So take the wheel and flip it into that space inside his leg, and then you can fold this piece back up and flat around the wheel. And we'll secure this here in a minute, but right, there we go. On the foot, flip out this little die cast piece, fold the foot up, and then this die cast tab is going to go into the side of his ankle, like that. Actually, before you do that, flip down this little toe piece here, and then tab that in. And again, there's a little toe piece here. Oh, forgot to flip that out. And that's another thing, the instructions, when you get to this point, the instructions go, because he's packed in robot mode, and there's a couple things that aren't quite done in robot mode. But the robot mode instructions make it look like you're supposed to flip these out for vehicle mode, and in vehicle mode, you actually want them to be folded in like that. And it doesn't actually show you to fold those in, it shows you to pull them out. And I'm not entirely sure what's going on there in that part in the instructions, but they should be on the outside, getting them some little shiny feet. And then these little die cast pieces right here fold down. And when you fold these up, you can just fold them up like that. They sit high enough that that millimeter difference doesn't affect his clearance, but if you push on them, they do actually click into place there. You can kind of hear it untab there. But you can just fold them up like that, but if you want to, you can push them all the way down. And there are his feet for the most part. Don't forget also the other thing that's not done in package, he has heel spurs here that flip up like that. They make him a little bit more secure. Like any standing issues he has is mostly with how they design the ankles, but he does get a little bit more stable if you flip these heel spurs out, and they are not out in the package. These panels right here, there's a black tab on this piece right up here near the wheel. There you go, you can see it right there. And there's a slot right here on the back of this piece. And you basically just kind of deform this, fold it at all the hinges that are here. And get that tab lined up with that slot and tab it onto there like that. So, and then push that up against his calf. So you can see it kind of chick. And then once that's done, make sure these little die cast pieces do not like to stay tabbed in. Push that up. Make sure this is folded down all the way, or that middle piece will get in the way, because that should look like that. And then once that's done, this little bumper piece, untab it from back here, from the inner edge, and it should fold up. When everything's tabbed in together, it should kind of fold up right there and fill that, and perfectly fill that little gap here. There's kind of a little triangle gap here where the yellow and the gray meet, and this will fold in and fill that in. And again, the die cast piece has collapsed on me. This one, I've seen some that are really loose, and I've seen a couple that seem pretty tight, so your mileage may vary on these little heel spurs here. But again, fold this up, deform it, tab it on like that, so these pieces cover the wheels, and then again, untab this bumper piece, and it should sit right there in that gap, and the legs are done. And now it's just the doors to deal with. So these pieces, take the, lift the window up. Kind of getting off camera here. Let's go up a little bit. So lift the window up on this hinge and then fold it down on this hinge. And you've got a little bit of range of motion there on how you pose it, although you can't go too far back because this piece folds in. So this piece right here, take the wheel well and flip it up like that. There's a little notch that'll stop it, and then fold it in and around like that. And you can position this however you want to look however you want it. I'll go over some of that here in a minute, but make sure this can fold all the way flat. Same over here, lift this, untab it from the side here, lift it up, fold it down, flip this up, and then fold it in and around like that. And then on the front, these wheel wells, you can leave them down like this. You can even kind of fold them down. Depending on how you use these double hinges on the doors, you can get the clearance to fold the doors back. If you and even the wheels a little bit if you don't want them super visible from the front. But officially, these pieces right here, there's a little hinge right here, and you just click them up so they angle up, and they will snap into place. At least they should snap into place. There we go. You'll actually hear a click when they snap into place, and so they angle up like that. And then the doors, like I said, you can leave them super wide if you extend the hinges all the way, but that dual hinge there does collapse around and allow them to sit a lot closer to the body. And you can even, if you don't like these wheel lights here, you can even kind of fold these down on that rotating hinge to sit more behind his head where they're not visible. You don't want to fold them in too much if you want to use the weapon storage, because that will interfere with it. But you can get those door hinges folded in pretty tightly and even still have them fold back, and then you can fold the wheels back against that. But there he is in robot mode. And he's super poseable. He's got, I think, a ball joint at the head, although super limited. He certainly has a side to side. I can't tell if that's a loose pin or if that's just how he's attached. You got the shoulders up and down. You got some rotation there. Wait, that came untabbed. There we go. There we go. Rotation there and a hinge there. The shoulder armor can move out of the way to get higher armed poses. Yeah, that's the thing. These joints are tight enough that sometimes you'll untab it from the body. He's got a bicep swivel, just a hinge at the elbow. You saw the wrists, and they swivel as well. He's got individually articulated fingers, all three of them, although the last two are fixed pose with the hinge. And then this one has a hinge right here and a hinge right here at the fingertip. And then the thumb can rotate. It's not on a ball joint, it just rotates this way. And then it also has a little thumb hinge. Same on this side. He does have a waist swivel built in, which is nice. Dual swivels at the hips, and you can hear that ratchet there front to back. Thigh swivel. Hinge knee. Just a single hinge knee. He does have some ankle tilt there, but not a whole lot of front to back. His toe can move up and down, but he doesn't really have a whole lot of front to back, which means he kind of just naturally angles back a little bit, unless you have to, if you want to pose his feet, you got to bend him at the knees. And his knees do stand straight. It's just you feel like you're bending him too far forward because his ankles don't move back, which is a shame. But yeah, he's a cool little Bumblebee. I really dig him. And I didn't show him off in vehicle mode. Did I show him off in vehicle mode with G1 Bumblebee? I don't think I did. Oh well. But anyway, now that he's in robot mode, we'll do some quick size comparisons real quick. Let me go ahead and get... Oh, how did your leg come apart, Bumblebee? There we go. Sorry. There he is with G1 Bumblebee, who does not want to stand here. That's fine. There you go. G1 Bumblebee. Here he is with the previous Masterpiece Bumblebee as the Camaro. So a little shorter, but that makes sense. Here he is with Studio Series Bumblebee. And again, a lot of similarities between the two. And like I said, I do think the Studio Series has better weapon storage in vehicle mode, not so much in robot mode. Here he is with Speed Series Volkswagen Bumblebee. Here he is with the previous Studio Series old Camaro Bumblebee. You can kind of see his evolution from old Volkswagen to Camaro to new Camaro. And here he is with the Masterpiece G1 Bumblebee. I need to get a flatter surface here. And that's not anywhere near all my Bumblebees, but there you go. I don't know why that makes me giggle so much, but having them all there is kind of cool. Now his accessories. First, I'll show off the storage. So here's the little accessory pack for vehicle mode. So you pop his mask off, pop the blade off. And on the back, there's the tab here on the gun, and there's two on each side. That's why I said you don't want to bend these too far in if you want to store the weapons. The slot in these pieces that tabs on up here in the window for vehicle mode, you just plug the cannon into one of them. We have to rotate this up a little bit as well for it to have the clearance. Yeah, you just plug that in there under one of them. The sword has a tab on the side as well as the tab that attaches it to his arm. And you can put these on either side, so if you don't like the interior of this being out, you can put it on this side and put the gun over here. But this tab goes right in here. And his mask, just like on the Studio Series, tabs in. There's a tab here on either door that fits into the slot here in the helmet. Although, in this case, it's not as super crazy visible egregious as on the Studio Series from the front. I mean, it still kind of hangs out over the edge there, but it's not as, oh look, there's a face on your wing that the Studio Series had. To use them on his person, I'll go ahead and pop his mask off here. And I like the way the mask is done. The blade works just like the Studio Series. There's a tab inside of it. There's a slot on his arm. You tab it on. Now he's got his little battle blade. The gun, you can use this tab if you want to. You can use this tab and the tab on the side of his arm, and you can slot it on like that if you want him to have more of an arm-mounted cannon. If you just prefer him to have a hand. If you want to look like it's transformed into the gun, you don't have to pop his arm off like you do on the Studio Series. You just straighten out his fingers here. And then kind of unfold his thumb in. And you just got to line it up right. Because there's a slot in here that his fingers go into, and his thumb's going to sit in here. And again, this can work on either hand, because you can see the slot goes all the way through, so you can attach it to either arm. But you want to fix this up so you get his fingers into the cannon, and then kind of swing his thumb up so it goes in that slot. And once you've got that all lined up, you push this up and you can see the tab coming out of his forearm there. And you just tab it onto his forearm. Okay, so that peg does not solidify anything here in arm mode, so I can thicken that up for the mask. And then now he's got a cannon arm, which is kind of cool. For the mask, and this took me a minute, and I didn't actually have to pull out the instructions, but I almost did to do this. So you don't just pull the top of it. One, it doesn't just plug in like his smaller mask does. You lift up his head crest and then just pull up on his ears, and just the top half of his head comes off. And then you take this, push it in on top, so you can still see his eyes through the little honeycomb eyes of the battle mask, and then fold that head crest back down. And there he is, all armored up, ready to take on some bad guys. And he looks really cool. I love the look of the battle mask. I love the honeycomb pattern in the eyes, and I like that they managed to get it on the Masterpiece figure. He looks like he could wreck some stuff, and I like that his original face is still hiding there under the mask. And then, of course, if you want to, you can, just like you could with the other one, you can store this back here on the door. So yeah, he's a cool Bumblebee. He's a little frustrating. Like I said, going to robot mode isn't so bad. Going to vehicle mode can be a bit of a pain when you get to those last couple of steps. Also, when you want to swap this mask back in, because on this one it's very easy. You can just lift up this from the front. The battle mask covers it. So, but if there's enough of a gap here that if you grab it by the sides, there's enough of a lip there that you can lift it up. and then pop the battle mask off, and then pop his normal head back on. Still waiting on Ironhide, but this is a really nice Bumblebee. He's got a lot of die-cast in him. I mean, I say a lot. He's got enough that he feels hefty, which is cool. I love his Volkswagen design. I think he looks great as a Volkswagen. And he's a fun little robot. He's fun to pose. I like his little hidden missile launchers in his chest. Maybe we'll see those in the movie. Maybe that's just for the toy. Who knows? So yeah, it's the first day of New York Comic Con today. I saw all the Siege reveals that we've seen this morning. I'm really looking forward to this Flywheels or Skytread or whatever they're calling him. Megatron. Might get the Megatron just because it's Megatron. And Prime does look good next to him, but like there's not a whole lot that made me just go wow. I mean, like I get it. They're doing some neat stuff. It's just like Hound. Hound is another one I'm definitely gonna get. But I'm just like I want more stuff like this, like where it's G1 inspired, but not so G1. Like this is Bumblebee, but it's a very different design of Bumblebee than the old cartoon. Like his headlights are up on his chest. I'd like to see just some more innovative stuff than Soundwave with tapes again, and just what we're getting. If you like it, great. I'm super excited for you. I'm glad, and like I said, there's some stuff that I think looks really good, like Flywheels and Hound and a couple of the others. And who knows what's coming down the line? They did show off Omega Supreme or part of Omega Supreme. That might be a purchase because he's got a Micromaster and tank and everything. So we'll see. As usual, I will probably end up with more of him than I intend to. But, and I get that there's always going to be Starscreams and Optimuses and Megatrons in the line. But, I don't know. I just like to see something that's not just a retread of G1. Like Titan's Return was fun because we got so many characters we hadn't seen before. So like Flywheels, I'm super excited about. Do I need another Soundwave? I just don't think I do. Do I need another Starscream that's basically a whole spacecraft stuck on the back of a robot and the whole robot just hangs underneath it? Like, I don't know that I do. I like Starscream, but who knows? Anyway, I've ranted enough. This is about Masterpiece Bumblebee, and he's a lot of fun. Aside from those last couple of steps into vehicle mode. A few things to watch out for. I do intend to shoot something showing how he goes, at least focusing on, here's the things to watch out for when going to vehicle mode. But I dig him. I like his design. I think I liked the Camaro design okay, and then when they showed this one, I'm like, nope, that's my favorite movie Bumblebee design. And honestly, one of my more favorite Bumblebee designs just in general. I love his alt mode, and I think his robot mode here is unique and fun. So, anyway, there it is, MPM-7 Bumblebee. Thank you for watching, and we'll have more coming soon. This one, if you're wondering where to get it, this one came from the Chosen Prime, and I want to make sure I point that out. I do have one coming from TF Source. They had one shipped to me from China, which should be here any day now. So, I will probably crack that one and give it a once-over just to see if maybe there's something that I prefer on that one over this one. But we may do an MP7 giveaway here when that one comes in. And I think that's the only thing I currently have inbound that I'm aware of at the moment. Now, I know that I should be getting the Predaking add-on set when that's ready. From which one does that? Dreamwave or the same one is the same company that did the Transform Dreamwave that did the add-on kit for Grimlock. They've got a Predaking set coming out, so that should be here. When that gets here, I'm going to review that. There's not a whole lot of purchases on the horizon. There's not a whole, like, the Bumblebee movie toys are out. I got the two little ones that I wanted, the little power activator, energon igniters. This guy, great. Masterpiece Ironhide, when he's out, he will be on the way. I have an order in for him. And Masterpiece Megatron, but like some of that stuff's way far out. Hopefully I'll have the second half of Skylinks from MMC when that's ready to come out. And but that's it. I don't have a whole lot planned over the next few weeks. I've got a couple of reviews I've already shot that will be out in the next few days as well at G1. Actually, it may just be G1 Tailgate left at this point. Anyway, if you sat here and watched that and listened to that whole rant, I appreciate it. Thank you, because it's been a long week at work. I work in the news, and if you watch the news, like, no matter which side you're on, it's been an exhausting couple of weeks in news. And there's been special debates and local election coverage and town hall meetings that we've had special coverage of, which has meant I've stayed an hour or two late at work every night. It's just been a long week, and I don't have a whole lot of outlets to just kind of vent quietly with myself. So thank you for listening. Thank you very much for watching. And I hope you're still having fun with Transformers. I still am. This guy is really cool. And like I said, if you're super excited about Siege, by all means, more power to you. I realize that, like, a lot of us in the fandom have gotten into all this at different ages. So people who grew up with G1 may be more burnt out on some of those aesthetics than younger kids. And if, like I said, if you love them, great. I mean, like, I can see where they'd be fun. It's just, how many more Megatrons and Optimuses and Starscreams do I need is really where I'm at. Especially when they're just not something that, they're not super different from what we've had before. I realize Soundwave turns into some sort of weird cargo troop transport ship instead of a tape deck, but then you turn him into a robot, which is where most of my robots spend their time on the shelf, is in robot mode, and he's just Soundwave again. And I have MP Soundwave, so we'll see. Like I said, Flywheels, super stoked. Hound, super stoked. I'm sure there'll be some more things coming in that line that get me excited, and I will end up with them. Anyway, Masterpiece, MPM-7 Bumblebee. I'm done. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.